I was unconscious in under 60 seconds. When I woke up, the man across from me had his pants down, and I have no idea. The moment started a journey that completely changed how I think about the journal, cry, and medicine. In 2020, I had colonoscopy in a hospital in Chongqing. The doctor injected something into my IV. 1 minute later, gone. And when I woke up in the recovery area, I was fine. But the young man on the gurney across from me, his blue surgical drape had slipped. He was completely unaware, and I thought, wow, that drug works fast. The drug was Propofol. And 6 years later, studying it in a pharmacology textbook, I realized the story of Propofol is not just about anesthesia. It's about power, regulation, crime, and what happens when the law exists on paper but not in practice. What Propofol actually is. Propofol is one of the most widely used anesthetic agents in the world. It works in under 30 seconds. It wears off in 5 to 10 minutes. It's clean, fast, and controllable. Medically, it's used for colonoscopies, surgeries, ICU, sedation, and general anesthesia. When administered correctly by a trained professional, it's remarkably safe. The key words there are correctly and trained professional because Propofol has one critical vulnerability. It requires intravenous administration, which means you need a needle, a vein, and someone who knows that they are doing, or someone who doesn't care whether you survive. The regulation paradox. Now here is where it gets interesting legally. In China, Propofol is tightly controlled. Hospitals require special licensing. Distribution is monitored. On paper, it's one of the most strictly regulated anesthetics in Asia. In the United States, and this surprised me, Propofol is not even federally controlled substance. Any licensed physician can access it. Any licensed physician can access it without DEA registration. Only these states, Alabama, Georgia, and North Dakota, classify it as a Schedule 4 controlled drug. Australia classifies it as S4, prescription only, strictly hospital managed. Singapore and Malaysia treat it as a prescription drug under a general pharmaceutical regulations. So here is a paradox. China has the strictest regulations, and China also has, by international evidence, the largest illegal organ trafficking operation in the world, in which anesthetics like Propofol play a central role. Strict rules did not prevent the crime. Why? The great chain. The answer is what I call this great chain. In one high-profile Beijing case involving 51 victims and over 10 million yuan, is totally 1.4 million US dollars. Organ breaker Zheng Wei built an underground organ removal network by connecting with some medical professionals, including doctors from state-run hospitals who performed illegal surgeries for profit. According to UN experts, this form of trafficking with a medical nature allegedly involves health sector professionals, including surgeons, anesthetists, and other medical specialists. This is a great chain. It's not a random strict crime. It's organized. It involves licensed professionals. It uses real medical equipment, and it relies on controlled substances like Propofol that are diverted from legitimate supply chains strict regulation controls the official supply. It does not eliminate the gray market. In fact, it may concentrate access in the hands of those who already have institutional power, making it easier for insiders to divert drugs and harder for outsiders to detect. Reporters by researchers, human rights advocates, and medical ethics experts have raised serious concerns that prisoners of conscience state enable. That phrase matters. When the state is a regular and the perpetrator simultaneously, regulation becomes meaningless. The Taiwan contrast. Now compare this to Taiwan. Taiwan was facing a different kind of Propofol crisis, not organ trafficking, but recreational injection. People were using Propofol as a street drug, injecting it illegally, sharing needles, spreading HIV. Taiwan's response was not to implement Chinese-style maximum control. Instead, they classified Propofol as a Schedule 4 controlled substance. Moderate regulation focused on tracking and accountability rather than prohibition. After Taiwan regulated Propofol as a controlled drug in August 2015, HIV infection cases among people who inject drugs decreased from 82 in 2015 to 43 in 2016. The lesson: targeted, evidence-based regulation works, maximum restriction without enforcement infrastructure does not. This is a comparative pharmaceutical law in action, same drug, different legal frameworks, completely different outcomes. So, why am I? I am a criminal defense lawyer, spending my evening studying pharmacology from an outdated Chinese textbook, across refining it with AI and international literature. Because in a criminal courtroom, when toxicology evidence is presented, when an autopsy report mentions Propofol, when a defense involves the question of whether a patient was conscious or not, the lawyer who understands the pharmacology has a fundamental advantage. And beyond the courtroom, I'm building towards research in comparative pharmaceutical regulation across jurisdictions. I'm traveled to Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Berlin. In almost every country, I walk into a pharmacy and bought over-the-counter pain medicine, same drug, different name, different dose, and different legal status. They are totally different. Yeah. Maybe some interesting stories I will tell you in future. Wait me. Okay. That regulatory inconsistency across boundaries, across legal system, is where I tended to focus my research. The young man from the colonoscopy in 2020 woke up safely. The Propofol did its work, did its job, but for thousands of people whose name we will never know, the same drug in different hands, under different systems, told a very different story. That's why this matters, and that's why I'm not stopping. If this kind of intersection between law, medicine, and justice interesting you, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.